I'm James DuMont, and I'm your next guest on Screen and Beyond.
On Screen and Beyond, an inside look into the entertainment world featuring interviews with people from the movie, TV, and music industry, news on upcoming TV and DVD releases, and the rumor mill. And now, here's the host of On Screen and Beyond, Brian Zemrak.
Here we go again. This is episode 737 of On Screen and Beyond, the show that brings you a celebrity guest each week from the movie, TV, or music industry, as well as keeping you up to date on what's coming your way as far as remakes, sequels, prequels, and upcoming new movies, TV and movie on DVD, and of course, the rumor mill. This week's guest on Screen and Beyond is James DuMont, who has a new movie out in which he stars alongside Don Johnson in called Unit 234. Now, James has also been known for his role as Chad on the Righteous Gemstones, and he was our guest back here on episode 709 of On Screen and Beyond, so be sure to check that episode out. And it's always fun to have James here. He's a great guest. I'm your host, Brian Zemrak, and this week we have info on a new Jake Gyllenhaal movie. Pierce Brosnan is back with another film, and a Little House on the Prairie update, and so much more, all on this episode of On Screen and Beyond. So I hope you're going to get ready for this. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I had a lot of feedback on our last two episodes. One with Nikki Harris, who was Madonna's background vocalist on many of her tours, hit singles and albums. And a lot of people love that one. And I hope you'll check that one out. And of course, you can check it out, the video version on YouTube or on Spotify. You just click the links that we have everywhere. And also, if you want the audio version of it, if you're in your car and you shouldn't be watching, be sure to check out any of the podcast providers, whether it's Apple or Google or anybody. We're on most of those, so check them out there. And of course, this past week we had Catherine Lee Scott, who was Maggie Evans on the hit 60s soap opera Dark Shadows, and she was a lot of fun to have on. And of course, she's been on before too, and a lot of great stuff she let us in on. And love hearing from you. So you can, be sure to send me your feedback and things like that. Feedback at onscreenandbeyond.com. Like I say, I love hearing from you and finding out what you think. And if you have a suggestion for somebody, do send it to that address. And if you're looking for some On Screen and Beyond merchandise, we've got it. Just go to onscreenandbeyond.com and you can see our t-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, mugs, the whole works. And you walk around with your On Screen and Beyond pride. And of course, right here's one of the coffee mugs we have right there. So all kinds of great stuff. Be sure to check that out. And please help us out. Okay, each week we do these episodes, and without you, it's nothing. I'm talking to myself. But if you turn around and subscribe or follow or whatever they call it on which platform you're doing, listening to this on, or watching this, if you turn around and subscribe to us, follow us, it helps us. Okay, because the more people that listen or watch On Screen and Beyond, the more guests I can get, because of course they want to go where there's a lot of people watching or listening. So tell a friend about On Screen and Beyond, and get them to watch it or turn around and listen to it if you're in the car, jogging, or whatever you're doing, working out. And like I say, the audio versions are on most every podcast provider, Apple Podcasts and everything. And you can even turn around, look at your Alexa and say, "Hey, Alexa, play On Screen and Beyond podcast," and it'll come up. So a lot of different ways. And of course, like I said, on video, Spotify and YouTube is where you can get it. So we would appreciate that. And if you can turn around and when we post something, send it back out. Helps us out. So let's see. We have a lot of great info coming your way on this episode, and James DuMont is coming up shortly. But right now, it's time for remakes, sequels, and prequels on Screen and Beyond.
Please hang up and try again.
Remakes, sequels, and prequels, a reboot of The X-Files is in development, and Gillian Anderson says if they call, perhaps. Time will tell. Guy Ritchie will be directing Roadhouse 2 for Amazon MGM Studios, with Jake Gyllenhaal returning for the lead role of that one. And the newly restored 4K Ultra HD version of the Rocky Horror Picture Show will be released in theaters to commemorate its 50th anniversary. Can you believe that? Rocky Horror Picture Show 50 years ago. And November 14th, it's the release date of the third installment of Now You See Me, Now You Don't, in theaters with Jesse Eisenberg. And get this, Miami Vice is going to be a film based on the 80s TV show. It's in the works, and proving that what goes around comes around. And that's it for remakes, sequels, and prequels. Next on Screen and Beyond, upcoming new movies. Upcoming new movies, Pierce Brosnan. He's done a lot of stuff lately. He's getting a lot of things coming our way. But Pierce Brosnan, Samuel L. Jackson, Tim Daly, Ethan Peck, and David Arquette are all in The Unholy Trinity. It's an action suspense Western film set in the 1870s Montana, and it's coming to theaters on June 13th. You notice there's a lot of Westerns coming out now, ever since Yellowstone and everything. But a long time ago, I had Martin Kove on. Okay, he was from Cobra Kai and all the other movies that came before that one. And he loved Westerns, and he had said way back then, this was, probably one of the first episodes that we did here at On Screen and Beyond. He had said, Westerns will make a comeback. And he's right. It took a while, but it is back. And it looks like Allison Janney and Bryan Cranston will star in Everything Is Going to Be Great. That'll be in select theaters on June 20th. And Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock, remember them from Speed? Well, they're going to join forces once again for a romantic thriller for Amazon MGM Studios. And it's yet to be named. We'll find out what happens with that. And that's it for upcoming new movies. Next on Screen and Beyond, movies and TV on DVD and streaming. Movies and TV on DVD and streaming, the action thriller Drop will make its 4K Blu-ray and DVD appearance on June 10th. June 24th, St. Elmo's Fire celebrates its 40th anniversary with a 4K Ultra HD release. And May 27th, The Woman in the Yard slips onto Blu-ray and DVD for Universal. And speaking of Yellowstone earlier, a Yellowstone origin story, 1923. Season 2 with Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren rides into Blu-ray and DVD on August 5th. And that's it for movies and TV on DVD and streaming. Next on Screen and Beyond, it's TV and entertainment time. TV and entertainment time. The Netflix reboot of Little House on the Prairie is moving along. As far as casting, Luke Bracey of the movie Elvis will play Charles Ingalls. Crosby Fitzgerald of Palm Royale will play Caroline Ingalls. And it looks like Skywalker Hughes of Joe Pickett will land the role, or has landed the role, I should say, of Mary, the older daughter on the show. And the role of Laura Ingalls is going to Alice Halsey. And the new season of Resident Alien will return on June 6th, and it will be simulcast on both USA Network and the Sci-Fi Network at the same time. So you're going to be able to watch that a lot of places. And over at CBS, they have canceled The Equalizer with Queen Latifah after 5 seasons. And sadly, here's a note that Ruth Buzzy of Laugh-In fame has passed away this past week. And I had the opportunity to direct Ruth in the animated film Bonji Bear and the Kingdom of Rhythm, in which she played the witch Bandrilla. And she's a wonderful person. She was, and she always will be. And I interviewed Ruth in episode 161 of On Screen and Beyond. So please be sure to check that out. And Ruth will be very, very missed. And that's it for TV and entertainment time. Coming up next, James DuMont of the Righteous Gemstones joins us to talk about his latest film with Don Johnson, Unit 234. James DuMont next, right here on Screen and Beyond. Today on Screen and Beyond, our guest plays the role of Chad on The Righteous Gemstones. He appeared on American Sports Story, Candy Cane Lane with Eddie Murphy, American Horror Story Freak Show and Coven, Spencer's Confidential, Patriots Day, and Deepwater Horizon with Mark Wahlberg, The Banker with Samuel L. Jackson, and more. His latest film, coming to theaters and video on demand on May 9th, is a thriller called Unit 234 with Don Johnson. It's James DuMont. James, welcome to On Screen and Beyond once again.
Oh, glad to be here, man. Glad to be back.
Well, it is, like I say, it's a pleasure to have you here. And it's always nice when somebody comes back because we can talk about the new stuff they have.
That's right.
If people want to hear about your life and everything else that you've done, they can go back and listen to that previous episode. But this time we have another thing to talk about. You seem very busy.
Yeah, no, I am actually very busy. It's one of those things where I had made a representation move, and it was a very smart move.
Yeah.
So I went from kind of like just not having any appointments to all of a sudden having huge appointments. One of which I just did the homework and found out I'll be working opposite a incredibly huge star. So I'm just in the audition phase of things, so I can't talk about it. But the point is that yeah, it's kind of like remaining dormant and quiet and patient, and then all of a sudden it's like, wow, it's like overwhelming the amount of things that I have to kind of juggle and kind of handle. But one of the cool things is that this film, I did this film 3 years ago. We shot this in Grant, and actually 3 years ago, this last time period, because it was right around Easter. It was all through April and all through May. We shot the movie Unit 234 in Grand Cayman Island, which, by the way, is gorgeous. If you're going to be shooting a movie, like that's the place to do it. And we had an incredible time. Andy Tennant is an amazing director. Did Sweet Home Alabama. He's also the showrunner on The Bookie. He's our director. We have Don Johnson. We have Isabel Furman and Jack Houston. It's a great thriller. It's written by Derek Steiner. It's a very tight, it's got a lot of action and a lot of surprises and super fun. So, and I would just be glad to be part of it. I play Don Johnson's like, driver, but is also his henchman bodyguard. So I kind of handle and take care of business. So, I'm kind of like his bodyguard driver slash enforcer, which is a little hilarious because it's kind of what I do in the Righteous Gemstones. I'm like, like for Danny McBride, I'm Jesse Gemstone's henchman. I mean, we call them the ass kissers for Christ. So it's very nice to kind of transition after 4 seasons and 20 episodes of the Righteous Gemstones to go from, lovable kind of Chad to dangerous Chad to now, Leon, who is, Don Johnson's, right-hand man. So basically, I drive him, I protect him, I enforce pain and suffering when it becomes necessary, and yeah, and I get to kind of stand, be in a what I had like a Mercedes Benz, I had the really like the tricked out Mercedes Benz, the G5. I had a G5 wagon, so it was just like kind of like so I don't know. I had the state of the art car. I get to be the bad guy. I get to be kind of quiet and lots of scenes with Don. It's like, I don't know. And to be in Grand Cayman Island, and most of our stuff was shot at night because the film mostly there's a little bit of daytime, but it's mostly during the nighttime. And so that left the days free in Grand Cayman Island
I feel bad for
to get my, yeah, exactly. No one's crying for me. And then to get my petty license, like to get my petty license done so I could do scuba diving. So it's kind of wild. But yeah, it was an incredible time. Uh, Again, I just had a conversation with Isabel Furman. She's lives in Switzerland, and so we were talking about the movie and how it's coming out. It's going to be on May 9th. It'll be open in five cities, across the country. And Los Angeles is one of those five cities. So, it'll be opening on the 9th. And then it'll be on that same day, it'll go to video on demand. And then there is a streaming deal in place, but it's too early to kind of talk about what that deal is. But I know that it'll be in St. Michael, Minnesota. It'll be in Merritt Island, Florida, it'll be like Minneapolis area, Minnesota,
Mhm.
Orlando, Detroit. It'll be in Atlanta and then Los Angeles. That'll all be on. So Los Angeles, Minnesota, Orlando, Detroit, and Atlanta all on May 9th. So sometimes these films they're not always get the opportunity to do a theatrical. And I'm to Los Angeles because I want to see it in the movie theater. I know there's a lot of good action stuff, and but I think also down the line too for video on demand, people looking for a good thriller. If you're fans of Isabel Berman from the Orphan series, or Don, or Jack from Mayfair Witches, this is a good watch, man. It's a good tight thriller, and I'm just happy to be part of it.
Yeah, I saw the trailer and it's like, wow,
Yeah,
there's a
yeah.
lot of stuff going
A
on
lot
in
of
there.
stuff going on here, like we're not doing any spoilers today. So, but the trailer's tight. But the fun part too about it, it's not like other films, I think sometimes where you're just pulling out all the best, the trailer is the movie. Like there's a lot more little detailed stuff in here, which is great.
Yeah, yeah. Now, with what you've just told us
Yeah.
in that short time, I have about 50 questions going around in
Lay
my
it on.
head.
I'm good.
Is now you mentioned the Grand Caymans.
Yeah.
Is this the most exotic place that you've been to when you've filmed a TV show, movie, whatever?
So far for me, it has. I think the closest to it is I did this movie called Hypnotized, which was this. I hopefully it someday it'll come out. It's this hilarious comedy. And that one was shot remotely in Mexico City, and one of my shots was supposed to double as like Africa. So we were helicoptered from Mexico City into this rural area in Mexico that looked just like the desert. And I had like llamas and stuff with me. Like, so I mean, like for me, that was up until, Unit 234, the most exotic thing was kind of being flown in a helicopter with the crew, and we shot in this area that looked like you were in, Africa.
Hmm.
And so that was the most remote other than this. This was just the most, I mean, this could be clearly a tourism film for Grand Cayman Island, because the sunsets on Grand Cayman Island are just, I've never seen anything like it. The sunsets take an hour. Everywhere else, the sun sets like, oh, there it is, it's gone. Yeah, no, it goes and then it becomes this color, and then it becomes blue, and then it becomes gold, and then it's like violet, and then there's like a burnt orange, and it's just like it just takes forever, and it's wonderful. And the water is great that you can see down, it's in there. Did some scuba diving, and yeah, it was a pristine place to work. So I was quite happy.
Yeah. Now you say had you scuba dived any time before, or is
I
this
did
something you
one time.
decided to try?
I did one time before. I got my petty, but it was about to expire. So it was like this was a time period where I had some the hard part was scheduling, because I consecutive days off. I'm in a lot of scenes in this movie. Even though I may be in the car, like I'm in shots, stuff like that, but I'm in a lot of scenes in the film. So yeah, I was able to kind of find this like 2 day window, because you do one day and you do the training, and then the next day you get certified. So it's like you kind of have to, and it's a full day of stuff. So having two consecutive days that weren't the weekends were kind of a challenge. But we mostly shot at nighttime. So as long as I said, look, as long as I'm done by before sunset, I think we're good. So that
Hmm.
was great. Yeah.
Yeah. So now, when after you got certified, did you go out to shipwrecks or
I have
coral reefs
not.
or anything
I
like
have
that?
not, but I got the license, but I'm good. Like I'm ready to go. Ready to
So,
do a scuba movie. Anybody's out there, I'm ready to do a scuba movie.
right, yeah, I was going to say,
I am
now you got to
certified.
find some movie that's going to take you out to some
It
grand island here.
is what I pray about. You're absolutely correct. I put it out there.
Hi, I'm Annette O'Toole. I am On Screen and Beyond.
How did you come about getting this role? Is it an audition or what
Yeah,
is it?
yeah. There's a great little story behind this, which is kind of like, it's a kind of goes to the journeyman side of who I am, which is, I had a really cool interaction with Henry Winkler. Um, he was doing a TV show called Out of Practice years ago with my friend Stockard Channing that I did 6 Degrees with on Broadway. And I was doing ADR work for this movie called Click. And before him, David Hasselhoff was in the booth and handed Henry Winkler a CD of his music that he just released. And then as he came out of the booth, I came up to him and he palmed me and gave me a handshake. And in his palm was this card that said, "Out of Practice Tuesdays on CBS." And he goes, "Turn it over." I got a signature there. And I was like, did you just hustle me to watch your TV show? And he goes, "James, let me give you a good lesson. It's a hustle at every level. Once you accept that, you'll enjoy this whole ride and journey that you're on. So you need to understand it's a hustle at every level." So the point of that is, I realized if Henry Winkler, Yale graduate, the Fonz, and now more recently, Emmy-winning Henry Winkler says, and producer, by the way,
Right.
says it's a hustle at every level. Why aren't you hustling? If Henry Winkler has to hustle at where he's at and where he's been at for decades,
Mhm.
what's your excuse for not working harder and trying? So I've never really rested on any laurels or thought that anybody's paying attention, as much as my ego would love it, that anybody's paying attention to anything I do in this business, right? So in that regard, I once I moved from Los Angeles to New Orleans, I still have an apartment in New York, and I wanted to keep my New York career going, even though I kind of left for Los Angeles. So I went and did these casting workshops where I was usually meeting casting assistants, the next generation of casting directors. And so I did a workshop one-on-one with this one casting director. Now, her boss cast me in movies. Like the boss has known me since my 20s, but she's younger and she didn't know who I was. So I said, this is really a smart investment for me to pay for this workshop and to get her to know my work. And she walked in and goes, "Oh, didn't we cast you in the Butler?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah." And she goes, "Yeah, but I'm not familiar with your work." And I was like, "Well, that's why I'm here. I wanted you to get to know who I am because you're the future of the office of the casting director that you work with." So that casting director and I read, she gave me I had some material prepared. I did it once. She gave me some really good notes and direction. I took them like a charm. And she's like, "I am so glad I finally got to meet you. My boss mentioned your name." And so it's like, so I built this relationship with this cast director. And 3 years later, this role of Leon comes up in Unit 234. She calls up my agent and says, "There's a great role for James. Would he read for it?" I did. She's like, "I did one take. I usually do two. They only asked for one. I submitted my reel with it. She submitted like, yeah, we want to, we want to make a deal." And then one of the other producers had a name that was interested in being in the film. And so I was like on hold. This
Yeah.
happens all the time. And so I don't know if it's happening or not. And they're trying to work out this deal with this other person and their schedule and their money and things like that. Well, apparently they didn't work out that deal. So they came back my way and I'm like, boom, it's mine. And so that's how that came about. And this is really kind of a lesson to everyone. I share this with other actors because if you feel entitled in any way in our business, this is not the business for you because it's very it changes. I say there's a huge difference between excellence and success. Many people have been very, very successful, but it doesn't make them excellent. And excellence is something that is largely within your control, and success is something that's not in your control. So I really someone had taught me to control my controllables. And that comes down to, if I'm trying to um, open up and establish and build new relationships in an existing market that I haven't been in a while, I need to invest time and money to do it. Some actors would never go in and do that. They were like, "Oh, I'm not gonna pay to meet somebody." And I'm like, "Well, this is a meet and greet like any other luncheon. I'm just paying for it, you know?"
Hmm. Yeah.
And so, but I mean, from that little, what was it? I think it was like 60 or $75 investment. I ended up, doing a very large, substantial role for 6 weeks in Grand Cayman Island. So you see, in terms of investing in putting your ego aside and going, I should be certain parts of my career, I should be further along or more famous or more. No, like I'm not, it's a hustle at every level. And in order to hustle, you have to invest time, money, and energy into building relationships. And now I have a solid relationship with this casting director, so,
Hmm.
and has brought me in subsequently more times. So from that one small little investment, I've, tens of thousands of dollars and this kind of opportunity to do this thing. So that's really the bigger, for me, it's always, I'm so incredibly uh, grateful and I have just gratitude is really an appreciation and gratitude are the two things I kind of go back all the time.
Yeah.
The fact that I get to do this still, there have been COVID, there have been, industry crushing strikes. There's, the contention of the business right now, and I'm getting opportunities when it's slow.
That's
And
great.
so, you know, uh, nothing but an attitude of gratitude, you
Hmm.
know? And I think a lot of it has to do with sticking around and really sticking to what Henry said was just to go, it's just a hustle. Accept that it's a hustle. Don't fight it. Don't begrudge it. Don't be resentful or angry or blaming anyone for not doing certain things. Like this is my career, as I see fit,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's
So
funny. I've talked with a lot of different actors, some who have won Oscars and everything like that. And they some have told me, and off the top of my head, I can't think of who it was,
yeah,
but several people have told me, and these are big names that, well, to an old person like me, I know that, but they say they'll go to a casting call or ask to come in to
for
do
an
a
audition or
reading.
self-tape, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the person in the business now has no clue who they are. I mean,
Right.
and I see both sides, like you say, you got to hustle no matter who you are or what. But you would think that the people doing the casting and stuff would have a firm knowledge of all these people because you know,
Right.
sometimes they miss out on some people who, would bring in a name, but oh, I don't
But
know you.
asses in the seat that and eyes on the algorithm. Absolutely. But yeah, there's constantly going to it's a changing and ever evolving world, and AI is about to change the way in
Mhm.
which it's all being done, and not necessarily in a negative way. The
Yeah.
ability to be able to create more content for a lower cost, yeah, it's going to be at the expense of certain human beings doing jobs that automation will be taking the place of,
Yeah.
and that may even include actors at some point. Because you have to look at this next generation. If they were really raised on virtual reality and raised on YouTube, um, are, does it really make a huge difference to them that that it's a real human being or if it's an animated
Mhm.
version of them? Like if a good story is a good story, I still think we're always going to stay with films about human beings doing human stories. I think that's been we talked about this before in our last time, is that being the storyteller that I stem from the creators of all communication, the storytellers that told the time on rocks when there weren't
Right.
even words. It was just grunts and stone.
Right.
That's the lineage that storytelling kind of comes from. So I don't think it's going to change in that regard because that was always human to human anyways. I think a segment of it will also be, but the next audience, do they really care that it's not that actor?
Mm.
I'm not sure about that,
Yeah. Like you
But
say,
yeah,
if it's a good story, it's a good story.
story is key. It's everything. I do these Monday Fun Days where I do an original content lab for writers for free and actors as well to read the material for the writers. And it's like it's story is everything. You know what I mean? What is your story? And I'm happy to say there are a lot of unique stories being told right now that I've never seen or heard before, and I love it. And they're being told by people you would never imagine. There's
Yeah.
one of my writer partners is like, female from the Midwest, and she's writing about bare knuckle boxing in the 1800s over in Europe. Do you know what I mean? How's this little girl not she's like homework, research, good writing, wanted to tell stories,
Yeah.
speaking through character, even though she's 5'8", he's speaking through, boxers in the 1800s that are, British and Scottish and Irish and like, it's yeah, this is I still feel that always, just like 100 years ago, from the world pandemic that they had, and two world wars, a world war and a pandemic. It's like from the Roaring Twenties became some of the greatest thinkers, the greatest writers, the greatest poets, the greatest musicians of that time period. So, from these, massive amounts of changes, some comes also massive amounts of creativity. So
Yeah.
I'm more hopeful and optimistic about it. And staying in my role as a storyteller, I am not interested in talking about any politics.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
because the storytellers were before the politicians and before the billionaires and before the doctors and the lawyers and the most accomplished people in the world. The storytellers were there before all of them.
Yeah.
So that's my only arrogance is stemming from I'm a storyteller. That's my job. That's what I do. I create human beings in 24 to 48 hours for auditions and for 1 to 2 hours on a TV show or a movie. That's it.
Mhm.
Stay in my lane, you
Now,
know?
now you mentioned the different type of roles that you've done. The good, happy, person, and then the rough, tough. I don't want to
Yes.
say evil, but evil. Yeah.
No, we
But
all are.
now, a lot of people tell me they not that they prefer. I shouldn't say prefer because it sounds like then you don't want to do the others.
Right.
Obviously, you want to do anything. I mean, it's a
Right.
job. You got to
That's
do
right.
your
We're
job.
just trying to work.
Right. But do you lean one way or the other that you like
Yeah,
that type of role?
yeah, I think there was a time that Brian Cranston, I think we might have talked this, but Brian Cranston and I talked about what is it about the nicest guys playing the most evil, the evil characters? And Brian's like, well, it's because we get to say and do things we would never do in our everyday life. I would never be that arrogant or never be that racist or that, sexist or so the point is it's a great license. It gives us a great freedom. And so yeah, I think we gravitate towards those type of characters because it gives us the way in which to do these things without having to have be held accountable
Yeah.
for it.
Do you think it's like a
No one's gonna cancel you when you play these
right?
characters. It's like, like that's just the guy, it's like Dallas Buyers Club against trans. It's like, yeah, that guy would get canceled and should be.
Yeah.
But and I think the same thing holds true for, I don't really I kind of stay away from the C word, the character actor. I'm an actor. Real actors play, and I think Sly Stallone's a character actor. And I think certain people they play certain characters that we're kind of banking on.
Hmm.
But I feel like real actors kind of do everything. That's kind of our job. I also think you think about how some of the leading men, the good looking, I think they love doing those roles because like they can have affairs and be physically intimate with somebody and they don't get divorced. You know what I mean? Like I think they do these loves and sex because they're like, I could kiss this woman and do this, and I could still go home to my wife and everything's great. And I'm like,
Right.
I'm not losing the house or the kids or nothing. You know what I mean? So I think just as much as we're in it for the bad guys, I think the hunky folks are in it for to be able to have just a hall pass, I think they get a hall pass from their relationship or a situationship, to do
Yeah.
that.
Huh. Now
It's
on
just a thought that you put in my head, which I kind of now relish for a little while. It's like, oh yeah, that's why they do it too. Like everybody's got a reason other than just we have to do this.
Hmm. Yeah. Now, Unit 234.
Yeah.
Was it physical? Was it a physical show for
Yeah.
not show, but
Yeah,
movie
it
for you?
was. I think a lot of it too. We were shooting at this time period. It was, but I live in New Orleans. Part time in New York, both places, and the humidity. It's a challenge. It's a challenge. But I'm used to doing it living here in the summer. Like I can deal with it. But I think a lot of people were struggling a lot with the humidity there. Now, because it's the water and it's cool, but it was still on these days, it was pretty hot. We got up to 102 a couple of days,
Oof.
104 those days. That's why it was really great to get all the day stuff shot early, and then we moved to nights where it was just much cooler and easy to work. So yeah, this one for me, physically demanding, not as demanding as some other things I've done before. Ironically, I had my stunt double did come in and filled in for me for a week because I got COVID in the middle of this movie,
Oh,
but no one's feeling bad for me because I was stuck in a five-star hotel overlooking the beach being paid, and they were bringing me room service 24/7. So yeah, if you're going to get COVID, that's the way to do it. So my stunt double actually from Spencer Confidential, one of my stunt double from Spencer Confidential was flown in and kind of did stand-in work for me for a few days to work with Don while I was getting better. So yeah, I knocked it out in a week. I like
hmm.
filled. So the
Wow.
point being is that so physically, yeah, I think I didn't get to do I get to do a lot of my own gun stuff, which was great. This was pre-Rust. So I was able to do my own gun work, and I had AK-47. That was pretty fun to shoot off. Some a couple good fight scenes, all of which I kind of did on my own, which is fantastic. I love doing my own stuff. Yeah, but ironically, my stunt guy was flown out just to be my physical stand-in for a week. So that's how that worked out. So I ended up doing all my own stunts, which is fun.
Wow.
Hi, this is Anthony Russo on Screen and Beyond.
Now, like I had mentioned when I did the intro,
Yeah.
uh, Spencer
Spencer
Confidential
Confidential.
and
Yeah.
the Deepwater Horizon
Deepwater Horizon, Patriots
and
Day,
Patriots
all
Day.
three
Uh,
with Peter
you
Berg and
got some
Mark Wahlberg.
connection with Mark Wahlberg here?
Yeah, it's more with Pete. It that Pete and I did some things in Deepwater Horizon that uh, really solidified my relationship with Pete. The thing that I'm figuring out, and I kind of guide a lot of actors to figure out is, who are the collaborators that you can serve and not necessarily be a fan of and want work from. You're a storyteller, they're a storyteller, but how does their work speak to what you have to offer? And so Peter Berg likes to make movies about real human beings, put in life death situations, and the kind of choices and decisions that they make. And you have to believe them. And lucky for me, I have this everyman face where I can be the vice president of BP, for Deepwater Horizon. I can be the emergency management guy in Boston for the bombing of, the bombing. And I can also be the plumpy tracksuit mob guy, Boston mob guy with the matching tracksuit and car, so but you have to believe me in each of these situations. And he likes to shoot them almost like documentary style. So one of my superpowers is people believe me. They trust me. They confide in me. I don't know why. Sometimes I really wish they didn't. On planes in certain places, I don't want to hear more information than I actually need. But the reality is that I have found that one of my superpowers is believability, trust, and authenticity. People trust and believe what I'm doing. So a guy like Peter Berg that's trying to tell these stories, I serve his vision. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
why that works. And in terms of Mark and I'm a little closer to James Wahlberg, his brother James, because he comes to New Orleans a good deal. But yeah, I there's just a shorthand. We work very quickly together. We respect each other. He has a very serious code of work ethic on set, as do I. We don't waste a lot of time or energy when it comes to set because time is money. So when we're off set, we're having a great time, but when we're on set, the meter's running and we both have responsibility. And so that's where that kind of, connection kind of works.
Yep. Yep.
And I think I made enough of an impression with Peter and with Mark in Deep Water to justify Patriots Day and then for the third time with Spencer Confidential. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. Well, James, we're going to be finishing up, but
Yep.
I want to let everybody know that on May 9th, be sure to check out Unit 234. It looks like a great film. I can't wait to see it. And, I wish you luck with that.
Yes.
Um, uh, Sort of two quick questions here.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was going to do just one, but what other projects do you have going on? Do
Yeah,
you
I have
anything?
I have another thing, another project that just, another film that I'm doing opposite, I'm working opposite, Mel Gibson,
Oh,
which
wow.
is, a brand new, they just redid the title of it, and I'm just going to pull up the title for you just so I have the correct it. It used to be called Blood of Man, and now the film is called, give me one second here, I'm going to pull it up. It's called Hunting Season, and
Hunting.
that's with Mel Gibson, and I play a sheriff in that film. Throughout, I have 11 scenes with Mel Gibson. They're fantastic. I had an incredible experience working with him, shooting in Georgia, and so that's the next film that's kind of coming out. Also, The Righteous Gemstones still has two more episodes to go, and both myself and my son Kelton Dumont are in there as well. So we're going to be finishing up the last and final season of Stones, and that's on HBO or streaming on Max.
Nice.
So yeah, once I have more about hunting season when that comes out, we can kind of talk again. But that's what I got going on, and I'm up for some things that are kind of interesting. So if this all goes well with my audition today, hopefully I'll report to be working opposite a huge movie star on a TV series. So I'm excited.
Great,
So we'll
great.
see.
Can't wait to hear.
That's
Uh,
right.
James, final question.
Yeah.
I've asked you this before, so
Yeah.
it may be the same. But when you sit back and relax, what's your favorite TV shows now and of the past, and what's your favorite movies
TV shows of the past.
or new? What are you enjoying?
What do I enjoy now? Man, adolescence is a thing I'm watching on television now, which is just hard to watch, but it's just intense. I'm loving that. I just started watching Friends and Neighbors on Apple because I'm a big Apple dude. I did Blackbird for Apple. I did The Banker for Apple. So I'm really digging that. In terms of films, oh, I saw Nora. I really thought Nora was fantastic. I was really kind of moved by that. I've been seeing a lot of theater. I went up to New York and I saw a Portrait of Dorian Gray. I saw Book of Mormon. Um, I just had an incredible experience. I was directing a play off Broadway, so I've been seeing more plays lately. I'll be seeing more films coming up. There's only so many times I sleep 6 hours a day, so there's only 18 hours a day to do other
Hey, you got to
stuff.
get into scuba diving too here. You got to get into the water.
Exactly, exactly. And then my plan this summer is like hobby wise, there's this great orange tree that I have in my backyard. Right now is the time for me to fertilize it so that we get the orange blossoms in the spring. And then I get big old juicy oranges, come December, January. And then there's a rose bush in the front that I kind of want to start putting another rose bush in and start feeding that a little bit. Just
Yep,
my wife
that
and I
time
are
of
kind of
year.
like doing these, like she's doing fresh basil and we're like rosemary and we're just kind of finding time to do things other than just work. We're both workaholics, so
Yeah.
it's really good for us to as my oldest would say, Dad, you got to get a hobby. You got to get a hobby. I was like, I got no time for a hobby. She's like, that's the point.
Yeah.
You're really missing the point.
Yeah. Well, James, it's always a pleasure to have you on here, and I thank you so much for taking the time to share with us.
Appreciate it. Thanks
And
again.
good luck with Unit 234.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that'll be on video on demand on May 9th.
And once again, a big thank you going out to James DuMont for joining us here on Screen and Beyond. Once again, he was, like I said, a past episode, he was on the show, and for letting us know about his latest project, Unit 234. Be sure to check that out. Well, thank you for all those who have subscribed and followed On Screen and Beyond on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And be sure to tell a friend about us so that they too can enjoy our amazing guests we have each week and all the guests we've had over the 737 great guests. It's just been, it's just flying by. And you can email me for a suggestion for a guest at feedback@onscreenandbeyond.com, or let me know what you think of the show, whatever. And I appreciate hearing from all of you, and thanks for listening. And that's it. That's a wrap for this episode of On Screen and Beyond. So until next time, when we once again take you on screen and beyond, I'm Brian Zemrak. Take care.